Okay, I'm having problems.
Safari. Back to Chrome. Open, hit done there, and then hit Facebook. Open Facebook. Copy that URL. Oh wait, it doesn't have the F. There you go. And then see. Back to Safari. Put it there. Don't go live yet. Are they there for you?
Yeah, they're there.
You admitted them already?
No, I haven't.
Go back to it and at least hit your video.
Go back to where?
To Zoom, so they see you. Admit them. You already admitted them. You already admitted them. Start your video.
What's up, fellas? Anybody in the room? Okay, okay. What's up, KB? Oh, he's on mute. So where do I go now?
You ready to go live?
No, I'm not.
So once they're on,
Hey, KB.
once they're on, go here
Uh-huh.
and then back to phone to go live and do them.
No, I have to put the other tab in there.
Okay.
No, right here. KB, can you hear me?
Yeah, I just got off of mute. How you doing, Gino?
I'm doing good, man. I'm just setting it up right now.
Okay.
All right. So just hang tight with me.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, damn. Did he?
Didn't see the words.
This would be good.
What's up, Stan?
What's up, baby?
How you doing?
KB.
Good.
Mr. Pena.
I love it. We are now live.
Gene, you got the little fresh glasses. You muted, Gene. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, he's getting it together.
Thank you, KB. Thank you, sirs. Sirs, we're live, as you already know, so I guess we're waiting on the minister.
Mark Thompson.
People are probably on already because they like to come on early, so we got a hot mic, as Markham likes to tell me all the time. It's a hot mic.
Okay.
But thank you all for showing up on a Sunday. I'm going to try to say most of what I have to say for the live portion starting at 10 a.m. I tend to, get a little excited with my Hoya family. But this one means a lot to me. So I'm glad you guys are taking the time. I really appreciate it. How's everybody holding up doing these?
That picture was, we were actually in the Hoya locker room. So it really gives us some legitimacy.
This is your
there.
coming out party.
Mm-hmm.
KB, what's that? Stand up. Let me see that shirt.
What, this one?
Oh, that's nice.
Hoyas.
Yeah. Little bookstore special.
Little bookstore special. I like it.
It's
I like it.
Georgetown bookstore next time on campus.
Come on, man. You're supposed to go down to the Thompson Center and just pick one of those up.
I'm sure Dave's gonna get into that.
Well, I think managers should be first in line if you ask me.
It will usually work.
That's how it usually works. But everybody holding up all right on this second time around with this pandemic and everything?
Yeah. Family's doing well. Kids doing well. Just taking it one day at a time. No long-term planning. Cancel Thanksgiving. So we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to connecting with James and Markham because we're West Coast.
Yeah.
And it
We have to get together, man. We do some outdoor eatery.
Yeah, I mean, last time I saw you, James, was when I think I came to visit you at the workplace.
Yep, at the RSN, El Segundo. Got the tour of the Lakers studio and all that type of stuff. That was living the dream then. That was great.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm pushing up on everybody.
Yeah.
If you were Hoya, I'm coming to find you. I don't care where you are.
Better.
It's too easy.
Yeah.
It's too easy not to. So we got the countdown, 9:59. I like to, as we know, we start on time. Markham hit me the other day with, because I asked you guys to come on like 5 to 7 minutes early. He hit me the other day where we're from. That's considered late.
Tennessee.
But
not Tennessee, Georgetown.
Double Georgetown. But we all graduated, so we're a little flexy sexy now.
Yeah.
10 a.m. This is Hoya Locker Room, episode 24. This is a very special show for me. These three is supposed to be 4 gentlemen. We're still waiting on one, but we're gonna get this ball rolling. You guys mean a lot to me. What you have contributed to the program means a lot to me. I've always felt you guys were the backbone of what we do. Often not seen, not appreciated. So this is what this episode is all about. I hope you can share with us what it was like to be a significant member of the team and not get the light and not get the shine. Now I want to go through what that experience was like, both on the court and off the court. And like I said, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. We kind of spanned from like from 86 to 91. And those were very successful times for the Hoyas. And you guys were instrumental in that. So why don't we just start off, go around the room, you guys introduce yourself, give me your years of service, and then we'll kick into the episode.
Sure. I'll lead off. Kenny Brown, 1985 to 1988, on the Hilltop, the post-Patrick and pre-Alonzo years.
Good years.
Yeah.
James Pena. I live in Santa Monica, California. I was the manager my junior and senior years, which was the 1986-87 year, Reggie and the Miracles, 29-5, 1 game away from the Final Four. And then in my senior year, 1987-88, we went 20-10, and we lost in the second round of the NCAAs, unfortunately.
I'm Markham Stansbury Jr. I was a manager from 87 to 91, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, and live in Los Angeles, California.
With that, I want to start with the gentleman who spoke last, Markham.
On the hot seat.
What was your introduction to the Hoya program? Meaning before you even decided that that's a place you would like to matriculate? And then take us through how you eventually wound up on the campus, and then securing a position. Because just for the record, to become a manager at Georgetown is maybe not like being recruited, but once you're in the mix, it's not the easiest thing to obtain. So I kind of want each of you to share that, what that was like and what impact that had on you.
I don't mind doing it, but I actually think we should kind of hold off for me if we get the fourth guy and go in order of seniority.
And I figured you would say that, but the guy we played for would say, fuck that. You go on. Time waits for no one. Time waits for no one.
Well, here's the deal. This is the deal. I was a senior in high school in Memphis, Tennessee. I saw an article in the commercial appeal of the hometown newspaper, and there was a guy somebody sent Mark the Zoom link. Tell him to check his email. There was a guy working at Nike in Memphis named Gene Smith, and I cold called
On this call.
Yeah, I cold called Gene and was like, "Yo, I'm thinking about going to Georgetown. You know, what's the deal?" Because in my mind, a lot of my former teammates will find this funny, but I was going to walk on. I had every intention of walking on, and the only problem with that is, you know, I'm a much better shooter now, but when I was in high school, I was 100% a post player. When you 5'11", 6 feet, there's really no place for you playing the post in the Big East at Georgetown.
There's no measure for heart.
Yeah.
So,
or idiocracy.
yeah.
Lunacy.
So my English teacher, my junior year, was a woman named Frances Johnson, who was the aunt of Mark Thompson. And she said to me, you know, if you're going to go to Georgetown, you should get in touch with my nephew. Just trying to, she didn't know anything about basketball with me, but she was trying to just connect me with another young black male at Georgetown.
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second in hopes that Mark Thompson will get on, but I just want to interrupt you. The conversation with that person he met in Memphis kind of went like this. You want to do what? You want to walk on where? No, let me pull your wig back right now.
Yeah.
This is what you gonna do. You gonna roll up on that campus. You gonna go down to that basketball office, and you gonna become a manager. And you gonna let that motherfucker know you will do whatever it takes to become a manager. It kind of went like that, James. Kind of went like that. So now you can proceed with that other shit you talk about.
Yeah, now that we cleared it up.
Hey, KB, you know I put it to him like that.
Now that we cleared that part up.
So I hit the campus, and literally every black person I saw, I was asking, "Hey, do you know Mark Thompson?" And finally linked up with Mark, and I was working at the time. My campus job was I was a GUPS, not GUPS. I was a person who checked the IDs when people came into the dorm. But you got that job through GUPS though. And Mark told me that I should try to get on at the cage where all the uniforms were washed for all of the athletic teams. And that's what I did. And I eventually worked into an apprenticeship, I guess you would say. Very interesting thing. I don't know if Mark is. I don't know if KB remembers this, but I got fired.
I do.
KB, yeah, we all can relate to it. We all can figure that out. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I almost lost my job before you lost yours, almost.
Yeah, I got fired. So I was working down at the cage, and
You got fired from the cage job.
no.
Got fired from manager.
So practice started, and I was super hyped. Now I'm a part of this thing.
Okay.
So I kind of big timed it a little bit with my buddy at the cage, and I was like, for those of you who don't know, there's the gym in McDonough, but there is a smaller stage where people would go kind of for individual workouts, and it's not even a half court. It's a full court, but like maybe a third of the size of a court. And I went on a guy named Paul Davis, who was working with me in the cage. I told him, hey, let's go up on the stage. We'll play one-on-one. And down the hall from the stage was a storage room, and there were these Cokes with the national commemorative coach from the national championship year 1984. And I was like, yo, I need to get these. So I took 6 of them, 5 for the starting 5 and 1 for the 6th man. And I left them. I left them sitting outside of the door of the stage. And by the time me and Paul got done getting up a little sweat, I walk out, and there was a note on yellow legal paper sitting underneath the Cokes that said, I hope these Cokes will worth your scholarship. And I almost died on the spot. So
True story.
But you kind of left out something, and we're gonna move on because I need to hear what the interview was like to get the gig. Like, I want to know what was said, because I know what my interview was like. My interview kind of went like this: I'm bringing you here to be a practice player. That was my intro. That was my interview. So that's interesting to me. Like, what's that conversation like to become a manager?
I'll go. My sophomore year, I was a program assistant for the Center for Minority Student Affairs.
Mm-hmm.
And how I got the job was, at least the story I've been told, was that the basketball office called Monica Roscoe, who was the director at that time, and asked them for one name, and she gave my name. But this is where I'm going to get to your point, Gene. So I got set an appointment at the basketball office, and I go and I knock at the front door, because there's no signs really that says Coach Thompson's office or anything like that McDonough. It's really like, you don't really know where you're going. And so
one way here, one way out.
Yeah, I'm trying to open there, and Coach Thompson comes out. He wouldn't let me in the office, and he's staring at me, and he's like 6'10", whatever. And this is just like he was with you. He was really concise with me. He goes, Mary, speaking to Mary Finland, Mary, they sent me another runt, because I'm 5'4", 125 at that time or whatever. But so that was my that was my interview. Mary, they sent me another runt, and then that's all right, because I got room books, board, and tuition, so it's all good. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That was my short introduction.
The Gene, before I even go down that road, let me just send some acknowledgments out to the guys that laid the groundwork for the 4 of us, the Norm Washingtons, the Steve Wolfs, Andre Hawkins, the Michael Jennifers, the
David Green.
Greens, George Jackson, Pete Arians, that really laid the groundwork for what was really, for college students, a professional job. I mean, we did yeoman's work as if we were NBA trainers. And that's been told to me by NBA coaches and NBA other execs, that the way the managers conducted our business under Coach Thompson was professional. My way to the locker room, I came to Georgetown playing football my freshman year, and would have played all 4 years. one day in the training room getting some ice. Coach Thompson was in the back with Miss Michael, and I dropped some ice and it slid underneath the, remember that ice cooler? You lift up, you get your little baggie, sandwich baggie, scoop your ice in. I dropped some ice, it went under the cooler. I was well trained, my mother, my father in North Jersey. You pick it up and you clean it up. And no one had to tell you that. I did that and no one was in the training room. But you know, as coach always did, he was watching when you didn't know he was watching. I didn't know he was watching. Fast forward, Dave Green was graduating. I was working in the weight room as an attendant. I was the only cat that would take a 6 a.m. shift to open up for the crew team. And I was there Monday through Friday, 6 a.m., opening up for about 90 minutes so the crew team could get a weight lift in. And Darnell Myers, assistant coach at the time, was over the weight crew team. So I know he put a good word in. Dave Green put a good word in. I make it in for the interview, and I got my first MF within 5 seconds of coach coming into the film room. Remember in the old office, the film room, the front room. And his first words to me were, MF, I heard you like to drink beer. Is that going to be a problem? You know, we hung out a little bit freshman year. So obviously word had gotten back to the big coach. That was part of my preference. So we addressed that. Ms. Pena was in the room.
You like any other freshman.
Exactly. So that was my way into the locker room.
Well told, well told.
That's great.
And I will add this. Coach had me on academic probation my first semester on the team. So if I didn't get my grades up, which were horrible after freshman year, that he would not fulfill the scholarship.
Right.
Ironically, first semester sophomore year was the best academic semester I had in 4 years on the Hilltop. That's how motivated I was.
Put that heat on your ass.
No question, no question.
I do want to digress for a second. I want to thank you for bringing up those former managers. As I stated at the beginning of the show, this is an important one for me because I came up under the managerial tutelage of Jeff Rochester, Steve Wolf, Andre Hawkins, Scott Wolf, George Jackson, and David Green.
Yep.
So that's an illustrious crew.
It is.
And you know, they took the gig very serious, took very little BS from anyone, because you know that player manager relationship can be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
Because again, we all got different personalities. You got big coach putting big pressure on all of us. So you had just as much pressure on you to make the right calls during practice. And I'm hoping some interesting stories come up, because you're looking at our referees right here. These were the referees. And we
I
had,
never made a call.
I mean, the better the team, the better the practices, the more competitive the practices. So I'm kind of hoping you will get into some of those stories. Mr. Thompson, welcome to the crew. Welcome to the episode. Hope you and yours are well. You can jump in where you get in. Get in where you fit in.
Well, let me just say good afternoon, everybody. It's great to hear some of the stories, some of which I had actually not heard before. I do want to very clearly disassociate myself from Markham Stansbury stealing those coats. I was not here. I didn't need more knew about that. We heard about it after the fact too, so I want to completely disassociate. But it's good to see Kenny and my brother Jaime and Markham, who came actually. He was kind of asked or sent to seek me out, which was also kind of an extraordinary way in which it happened, how he came to be a manager. But I agree with Kenny. This was really a training ground for professionalism. You know, a lot of people don't get their first job till after college. We had our first jobs and real jobs working under Coach Thompson. A little later, maybe I'll tell the story about what happened with me and how I ended up there. But
you kind of have the floor. We'd like to hear that now, actually.
Yeah, that is this segment.
That's the segment.
That's what we're doing right now.
That's the, yeah.
You know, I
Check
shout
in
out
a
like
little late.
the
These are the
Kimbe every day.
10s.
You know, you need to get on the line right now. We need a down and back. We need a half court, full court. We need 5 times half court. On the line, baby. On the
That's
line.
it.
Boop, boop.
That's it.
But no, freshman year, a little bit like Kenny. Well, let me go back before that. Where I came from, and I've always been political. I was even political in high school, and Georgetown basketball was, to many of us and my peers included, a political movement and a political statement, because we had never seen a big black coach like that. People thought Georgetown was an HBCU. As a matter of fact, we all did. I even thought that before I visited once. And where I was growing up in the high school I went to, it was a big deal to go to Georgetown. And I think I was one of only 3 students at the prestigious high school I was at to even get accepted into Georgetown. And so that was, but again, most other folks were looking at it from an academic point of view. I wanted to be a part of that movement. And so when I got to campus, I played baseball. I was a walk-on on the baseball team. But of course, they didn't give scholarships or anything. And I was not anywhere near as good a ball player as my son is right now. So, you know, I played around with baseball, and I got a work-study job working in the athletic director's office, Frank Renzo's office, and in Brian McGuire's office. And, you know, I was close enough. I was in the gym, went in the cage. You know, I was working in folks' offices, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. But then a few folks around started saying, you know, man, you would make a good manager. And I never thought about it.
Can I ask you who those folks were?
McGuire he mentioned it to me. You know, Renzo was giving me advice to keep my nose clean.
Gotcha.
But there's some of the other people on the staff too, and I'm going to get to them in a minute. So I'm working in that capacity, and then Brian gave me a great deal of responsibility. Kenny may recall, and we'll probably get a little bit more on this later, what our game day responsibilities were. And one of mine was, you know, post game, driving Miss Fenler's car while the bus took everyone back. Kenny would give me the car keys. I don't know if Kenny knows this, but before that, when I worked for Brian McGuire, who at that time he wasn't even an assistant athletic director yet, he was director of Office of Sports Promotions. I would drive his car to and from the Capitol Center and deal with the responsibilities of the Office of Sports Promotions. So I was always kind of already sort of a backstage player doing little things when it came to sports promotions or whatnot. So I wasn't foreign to any of that. But then people start saying, you know, you make a good manager. Again, didn't know how to do it. Is it a position you apply for? Clearly, no. You know, kind of how vice president used to be. You didn't campaign for it, you were just chosen. I think, you know, and I don't think any of us, I think Markham was the only one that was given instruction to come find someone and lobby for the job. And so that's what happened. But yeah. So as it got closer, my money was getting tight. So for sophomore year, I was like, I'm not going to have no money to come back to school, right? So then it started to become a practical thing for me. Well, we need to figure out how to do this, but still didn't know how. There was no template. And Kenny and I would pass each other in the hallway, but you know, we didn't really know each other yet. Finally, 2 brothers, you mentioned 2 other people, and I'll wrap this up. TC and Stephen, those were 2 brothers who were like on the maintenance crew, the custodial crew of the gym. Every year, they were responsible, had a mighty task of stripping the floor of McDonough, stripping it, sanding it, repainting it, and shellacking it. And one day they said to me, and I had never done any kind of work like that. I wasn't, you know, I'd never done anything like that in terms of at that stage in my life. And what am I, 18, 19 years old? They say, hey, brother, you need to help us strip this floor. I was like, strip a floor? Ken, I was like, what is stripping a floor? I didn't do that in my folks' house. And so I think it took about a week or so, maybe a little over a week, but they had me strip that floor with them, sand it, paint it, and shellac it, which is really a professionalized skill. That ain't something you just, like, I don't think any of us could just today. I don't even remember how to do it. So
we weren't doing that in the hood. We weren't doing that in the hood. We weren't stripping floors.
if 5 of y'all go strip a floor, we need, SOL. But they walked me through it. People weren't wearing knee pads. You know, you wear knee pads when you're working on the floors of your house now, Kenny. There wasn't no such thing.
No new pads.
That's where my permanent knee injuries came from, y'all. I didn't have no permanent injuries, but I was on that hard floor. And that was the hardest thing I had ever done. And after I had done it, I said, shoot, I don't give a damn about, I didn't even think about no job no more. I was exhausted. And Coach, remember, they had that balcony up there. So he walked by every day and see me stripping that floor, and TC and Steve would weekend me. Yeah, he see. I say, I'm down here slaving, but I wasn't even studying him because I was like, why don't you save me now from this situation? But apparently that's what happened. And then the day before the fall semester started of '86, didn't have no idea what I was going to do. Didn't have no money. It was during the pack up leaving campus. Coach called me and said, why don't you come down here? And he offered me the job. And I'll save my first cursing out for later, which really wasn't my fault. But
it's never our fault.
Same here.
None of them MFs were my fault. No.
But that's what happened, and it was a blessing. And to be in the company of someone that you had lionized and elevated was just a total thing. I talk to friends now; they still don't believe I did that. People like, man, how did that happen? I was like, literally, I think I was shellacking the floor, and just like Kenny with the ice. He saw the little things like that. And then from that moment on, that's what we did. And Kenny was a stickler for the little things. He taught me that. That's why we was always dealing with receipts. And that was the inside joke between us.
Yeah.
It was an incredible experience. And I don't think I've ever would have had an opportunity to shellac and strip a whole basketball floor.
I'm gonna jump to you, James. And since you had that introduction from Coach with that term I won't use, it's certainly a term you had heard before. So it wasn't like he was hitting you with something you hadn't heard before.
5'4", man. I've heard it a couple times. Exactly.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about that player-manager relationship. You guys having that whistle. And guys basically looking at you like, especially towards the end of practice, last thing we want to do is run. If you make that call, that might be extended practice. Just talk to me a little bit about how you manage that relationship, what it meant to you, just any stories that you think will symbolize or kind of give people a insight on that.
Well, it was 24/7. I mean, we lived with the players. My roommate my junior year was Jonathan Edwards, 6'10", 250 pounds, power forward, all Big East freshman of the year. Our freshman, and then my sophomore year, Sam Jefferson, he's 6'11" as well. So there's definitely height discrepancies in our room, that's for sure. We traveled on the road. It was just, when I first became manager, then I stayed the summer of '86, and Miss Finland said I could move into one of the Village A's, and believe me, I was carrying my stuff from like my Village A to I had no idea. I'd never met really any of the players. And I had this big old luggage box thing or whatever. And thank goodness for me, Jaren Jackson opened the door, and he helped me carry it. He was the nicest guy, and really made me feel comfortable. A couple of the fellas didn't talk to me the rest of the summer yet, but that's okay. We worked into that. We all became friends. And for me, I'm just going to jump to the end where, for me, it's a lifelong friend. I mean, Ronnie Highsmith and Jaren Jackson were grooms for my wedding. They're still great friends of mine today. And so from, that's what I take from it is the lifelong friendship is really what I want to get across. Is I remember Ronnie called me. He goes, "Is Jaron actually coming to your wedding?" I go, "Yes, Ronnie. Jaron's actually coming." So they all showed up and they're all there in Texas, and it was a beautiful day, and just really grateful for that. So.
I appreciate you guys dealing with me with my jumping on and off. I got my newborn and I'm solo today. So I keep my earpiece in, so I'm definitely following. But if I jump off, it's just because this young and ready to play defense already. And I don't know where he gets that from.
Back to fist.
Yeah. So Markham, how did that walk-on situation go?
Well, very quickly, I figured out you're talking about your first motherfucker moment. And mine wasn't really my fault either. I will say that. I take responsibility for everything, but my first day of practice, and this is when Georgetown is Georgetown. It's, coming off of an Elite 8 year with Reggie and the Miracles. And I'm in practice. My classmate, Anthony Tucker, was high school player of the year. And I'm literally kind of in awe in practice. I'm in practice, I'm present, but I'm looking around and I'm just like, wow, like I'm in my mind, I'm like, Patrick Ewing played here. Gene Smith played here. Reggie Williams played here. Anthony Tucker is high school player of the year. And there was a pause in practice. Coach wanted to go over something, and Mr. Pena there.
You always gonna bring this up.
Horrible pass. And he cursed him out, and he goes, "Get me a motherfucker here who can throw a bounce pass."
Our only bad pass the whole year.
Your only turnover.
So I step up, and now the lights are on, but I'm scared as hell. Like, not scared, just I'm nervous because this dude just messed up. And I wanted to, like, if that hadn't happened, if he had just called me out there, it would have been cool. So, but now I'm nervous, and I throw a beautiful bounce pass. It's perfect. The only problem is it hits him right in the ankle. Motherfucker, didn't I hear you could play? Didn't you play basketball where you from, in Memphis or something?
This is a manager he's talking to.
And everybody laughs. And after practice, I go up to him. We're passing on the steps going up to his office, and I say, "Hey, coach, sorry about that pass." Thinking he's gonna be like, "Oh, it's all right, son. You finished okay." I am too, and he kept it moving. And I was just like, man, like, and this is like probably a week before the Coke incident. So I was just like, man, this is not what I thought it was.
A week before the incident.
Yes.
And you still went through with, you know what? I'm jumping with Mr. Thompson. I'm going to disassociate myself with this dude right now.
Yeah.
I got to admire the chutzpah. I have to admire it. KB?
I was extremely aggressive. I will say that.
Yeah, the whole crew was.
Can't knock his hustle.
Talk to me a little bit about when you realized your role on the team and how much it mattered and how important it was and what that meant for you in terms of your growth. Because you mentioned freshman year, abysmal. Sophomore year, you kicked it into gear because you had the motivation. So just talk to me a little bit what it meant, how that shift. Yeah, just if you can.
Yeah, and I do want to touch a little bit on the nuances of the players on and off the court and our interaction as managers. Yes, we were the filmers in games and practice, collecting the archive video. We were the referees. I know Markham stepped in a couple of days. I stepped in as a player on the opposing team. So we're running around trying to execute play. And I remember my Markham moment getting cursed out. I took a shot. I took a jump shot.
You did what?
Yeah. It was getting good to me. This was my first year.
Look at Thompson over there. Look at Thompson over
there. This was my first year. Michael Jackson, I was checking him, and I took a shot when it was our turn down on offense. And coach made it clear that I was not there to shoot. I was really there just
said the same thing to me too, so we're on the same page.
Yeah. But a lot of the interaction in the dormitories, as James just said, you know, we live with these folks. We practice when we were in class. We socialize on the road. Although on the road, no one wanted to be my roommate on the road because I snored excessively, still do. So my roommate on the road was actually a coach. It was Coach Spriggs. He was the only one that would take me in.
And that was not fun. That was not fun.
Yeah. So he did the duty. That was my roomie on the road. Back in the village though, Jaron was my roommate. Reggie, and one semester with Wingate, Dave. We did have some conflicts, player manager connection. I think socially, as far as the ladies, sometimes there was a little overlapping, and that caused a little conflict sometimes that we had to work through.
Because it really wasn't a HBCU, so there was going to be some overlapping.
Going to be some overlap. Campus wasn't that big. So, you know, we had to deal with that. They looked at us, the players, a lot of times as helpmates, you know, academically, for guidance and counsel. And we provided that because we really thought as though their success was our success. And we were all in it. We were all in as managers. There was no line that, you know, luckily I know I wasn't confronted with a line that I had to think about, should I cross or not? Coach didn't run that type of camp, so everything was above board. And we were all in to support as best we can on and off the court. So hopefully that
that works.
Address your question.
Again, my appreciation for you four. I can't express it enough. I can't express my appreciation for the position. I was the player that when we did not have enough or somebody was injured, that I normally got the manager to do 10-10 or to do ankle bounce passes or whatever you want to call it. And at the time, my 10-10 partner one year, and I want to say it was my senior year, was Steve Wolf. And you would have thought I was playing against Gene Smith. Like Steve Wolf was hitting me dead in the chest. I mean, he challenged me to the point where I'm like, does this motherfucker think I'm gonna go hard against him? But the way he was going after me, and I just, at the time, you know, like 18, 19, whatever, 20, I was like, man, this motherfucker out of his mind. Right. But now my appreciation for it, obviously, I'm trying to put this on, I'm trying to put this out there. Like that role as a manager almost is a no-win because you got players looking at you like, yo, is this dude diamond on me? Is he, it's almost like, you know, back then Big John picked the captains. It's almost like being captain. Like Cass is looking at you like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So you have to establish yourself as being all in. Like I'm about this business. So versus going back to tell on you, I'm going to forewarn you. But if you don't take that warning, you're putting all of us in jeopardy.
Yep.
So that's where my appreciation for you, because there's no one side of the line. And sometimes the optics can be kind of challenging, but you know, again, any stories you want to share, anything you want to bring out, please.
To your point, Gene, about it being a tough line, I mean, I always thought of, I mean, without question, Big John made it clear that the managers were equals. It wasn't, and if you were a senior manager like Kenny was when I was a freshman, you were treated like a senior player. Seniors came first, like we were eating or whatever. It wasn't all the players, and then Kenny will be the first manager. Kenny went with the seniors, and but it was a line like when you're walking, like you're on the team, but you don't play. You're also kind of on the coaching staff, but you're not a coach, and finding that delicate balance was definitely challenging sometimes. But you were talking about us reffing. Once when Alonzo was a freshman, I remember our first film session. I think we played Athletes in Action, and Zoe dunked, and then he was so excited. He literally tried to do 55, our full court press himself. I mean, he just went bananas. And we're looking in the film, and he's like, son, like that's, we don't do that. So we go down, we're running in practice, and this happened on a few occasions with me and Lonzo, because we were both very stubborn and kind of determined. But I called a foul on Zoe that he didn't think was a foul, and he tried to give it to me like, man, you don't know the game, you don't know what you're talking about, that's some bullshit. And I told him to knock it off, because my sophomore year I was the senior manager, and he came in #1 high school player in the nation, very heavily recruited, huge ego, and he kept on going at me, and so I called a tech on him. And
you call
I called a tech in practice, and
we all just shaking our head.
I called a tech.
That story's worth
but the thing was, Big John, we'll probably get into this. You were either, very few people, Charles Smith comes to mind as one, as someone who was loved by John and Mary. It was usually one or the other. And Big John was my guy. So when I called that tech, he was like, that's a good call to me. So if the coaches saw that you were all in, like Kenny was talking about, you didn't have an issue. And as a matter of fact, if you weren't all in, you weren't going to last. So that's just the way that went.
I want to quickly mention, like, being all in. We were, all of us are, I could speak for myself, it's totally devoted. I mean, to whatever Coach Thompson wanted, Miss Finland, Miss Michael. I mean, our amount of devotion was crazy. And I found, going into like the real workplace, that maybe it's just me, but I never found a boss that could really appreciate that or to even wanted it. I was like so crazy to do anything they wanted and be so like to their general, to be a soldier and be of service, but like maybe too much, from what we learned. And I think it hurt me early on in my career, because like there were some bosses just like, who, we don't, you're not making the cleanest shower in the Big East anymore. You're not cleaning the biggest, anything like that. So it was interesting, but in terms of being all in for Coach, we were all there. So, I mean, and it was hard to translate that for me personally into like the business world. And I never really found that one person who was like, obviously Coach is, 1 in a million. So, but it was interesting. I thought that any boss would want how devoted we were, or how devoted I was to Coach Thompson. And I thought it'd be my model. And it really didn't end up being like that. It was almost too scared about how devoted we were as managers to get our job done, to be professional, to represent Georgetown, represent Coach Thompson, represent Miss Finland. It was just came in like a tidal wave. And to me, I never really found something like that who would want that or appreciate it or know what to do with it. So
You bring up something interesting, because corporate America is, can be a little tricky, and that never say no attitude, that us against the world attitude, sometimes doesn't translate well. So and I'd like for all of you to speak to the transition from Georgetown to the real world and what impact the Georgetown experience had on that. And James kind of touched on it. So, Mark, I think you're up.
Well, can you all hear me okay? Mark,
Yeah.
do I sound all right?
You're a little
I like
bit.
Dikembe.
You sound like the Kimbe. Yeah, exactly.
That's perfect.
What the hell's
Sound
going
like
on?
the Kimbe.
Best
It's like a
Dikembe
little underwater
impersonation,
action.
Sorry, something's going on with my mic. I don't know what's going on. I apologize.
Of all the people on this call, for something to be going wrong with your mic,
Production wise, come on now.
Don't make sense.
It's
Go
been
ahead,
like this since
No,
like Friday. And I apologize, y'all. Best laid plans.
It's like slowing down. It's like at a slower speed.
Is that what it is? Okay. We'll have to figure it out. But anyway, as we've been saying, this was a very professional environment. I do not think I don't know, Kenny may know this more than I do, but I don't know of another situation in a college sports program where managers have as much responsibility as we have and were as respected as we were. We were treated like players. Of course, we would get cursed out and everything. But Coach Thompson and Ms. Felon gave us a great deal of responsibility. Anywhere else, you're not really doing anything but giving out towels and Gatorade. But clearly, we were doing a lot more than that. And it said a lot that the two of them wanted us to get something significant out of that experience other than just towels and Gatorade. So I think some of the things we learned, we were able to carry into other aspects of our lives, corporate and otherwise, a level of professionalism, a level of discipline. Lord knows, just coming out of that situation, and it was no secret, the regard and the investment he made in managers. Because if you say to someone, you went to Georgetown, and everybody knows the players, but I've never said to anyone I was a manager and the stature was diminished. Every time I've ever said I was a Georgetown manager, people have still responded as if I was Patrick Ewing. Seriously. Even when I didn't feel worthy, they said, well, calm down. I was a manager. But because of the regard around the program and the respect for the tradition and the respect for the job that he created and defined for us, there's not 1 ounce of shine that comes off of that when you say that. And I'm sure the brother here would agree with that.
Markham, let me hit you with this. When was the moment, the aha moment, where again, you're there, but you really felt like my aha moment came my junior year when I realized I'm contributing in a way that is showing up in the box score, right? I'm contributing in a way, I'm getting a certain amount of attention from a manager. For a manager, that's different. When did each of you feel like, I'm a part of this shit? Without me, certain things wouldn't be getting done. Like that moment where, yes, you're all in, but it's reciprocated in a way that you didn't expect it. It's not like you're looking for it, but you get that high five or that pound from somebody you least expect. When did that occur?
That's actually interesting that you use that phrase, because that moment came. I'm shocked that you said it was your junior year, because for me it came my freshman year, and so I had expected to be for a year, being a ball boy at the Cap Center, fourth guy on the totem pole, serving an apprenticeship. And my second semester, I started traveling. And we were on the way to a game. And Big John used to sit in the back of the bus. Most coaches sit in the front. He always sat in the back so he could see, kind of take the temperature of the team and be able to see what was going on. And he called me to the back of the bus and had me sit next to him. And he actually said to me, son, you're a part of this thing now. You need to be aware of that and, just handle your responsibilities. And from that moment, I was just, because I had held him in such high regard and was in awe of him, from that moment, I felt like I was a part of it. And to James's point about, wanting to do everything right and sticking in, my sophomore year, we played LSU in the Superdome. And my family, I'm from Memphis, made the trip down from New Orleans, and my brother wanted Alonzo's autograph. And you didn't take anybody up to the room. That just, forget about that. And me and Alonzo were roommates, and he wanted me, I told my brother wanted autograph. He's like, cool, no problem, just bring him up to the room. I was like, you are out of your mind, Slim. Like, I ain't get, one thing I knew was I wasn't gonna get fired twice. So I wouldn't bring my brother up to the room just to get an autograph. And, maybe that wouldn't have been a big thing, but I wasn't about to find out. And Zoe didn't want to come down, so my brother didn't get the autograph. So I was like, I'm in here and it's the way we do things, and that's not the way.
Well, I love the standard. Like I said, I quickly mentioned about, having the cleanest bench in the Big East. I remember Kenny was like, that was his first thing he talked about. Like, we're gonna have the spotless, there's gonna be no Gatorade cups. Our towels are gonna be folded. We're gonna look sharp. And then he told me in the shower after the game, you see all those bars of soap? You're picking those up. I was like, great. So we left that locker room cleaner after we left than it was before. And those high levels, those high principles are just amazing lessons in life that I've taken as I try to be a father, as I try to be a husband. So I want to thank, Kenny, KB, and over here, who I really am so proud of the fact of how we had the cleanest locker room and the cleanest bench. So that's 35 years later I'm talking about that. And it still means so much to me. So anyhow.
I want to jump in and go back to something James was talking about earlier. He was talking about the friendships that you develop over the years. When we were there, we butted heads, and probably 7 or 8 years.
I don't remember that, Markham. No.
Oh yes, we for sure butted heads because I can't remember. I know it was in New Jersey. It's funny. I have two very interesting New Jersey stories, but something happened, and James didn't do something he was supposed to do, and I said to Kenny, I was like, "Yo, man, just let him sit down. We don't need him. Me and you will handle this. Don't worry about it." And James was livid. You're fucking third manager. You don't talk to me like that.
Markham, I don't remember even saying the word effing.
Yes.
You're making that up.
You are fucking third manager. That's what you said to me. You absolutely said that to me.
Any in my bones.
Yes,
KB,
it is.
KB, did I ever curse in 2 years with you?
Hey.
Never.
To
me? Yeah, exactly. You're talking about two different people. The freshman and the seniors. Exactly. I'm sure you didn't do it, Kenny. I'm positive. But
You have me mixed
New
up with some
Jersey
other
to be.
Jaime
So-
Pena manager.
so here's the thing. So I was telling Kemet, Sam Jefferson, at the time at Georgetown a few years ago. I was about to go to a game or something. Me and James were going to, and he was like, "Wait a minute, you and Jaime are hanging out? Like, what's going on? I never would have thought that." So the point is, I've gone from being the third manager to now I screen the boyfriends of his daughter, Anna Sophia.
Full circle.
Exactly.
They
Full
got
circle.
to come through Uncle Margo.
And I consider Mark one of my best friends for being out here in LA and support him. And, so he's always been there for my family, for my wife, and for my daughter. So we have some great times when Jaron comes in. And we watched millions of Jaron games when he was in LA together and now with Jaron Jr. So we've had really great times. So no, I'm really proud and thankful for my friendship with Markham for sure. I don't remember the third manager story, but that's all right.
It happened, believe me.
So that moment of recognition for me was kind of threefold. When I kind of had a self-recognition that I'm here. As I shared, freshman year, Division III football at Georgetown was you bring your own cleats, and we traveled to St. John's. We played St. John's in football freshman year. I sat on a Gatorade cooler from McDonough Arena to St. John's football field in Jamaica, New York. True story. 5 hours on a Gatorade cooler. But I was on the traveling squad, but that's how D3 football, how you roll. We slept 3 or 4 people to a hotel room on the road. And obviously, the perks and how we traveled as the men's basketball team, and it was night and day. Another point of recognition came just being in the training room compared to football experience where New South Cafeteria would stay late for the football, would stay open an extra 30 minutes so the football team could get in there and have a late dinner, as opposed to our dinner for 20 in the dining room over at Darnell, where it was not surf and turf every night, but we know what it was. And it was a whole lot better than what was happening over at New South. That third part for me was recognition that I'm really here. It's the first time Miss Finley put meal money in my hands to distribute to all the fellas. And you really feel a sense of trust, responsibility to do that and distribute that. But that's kind of when I realized, okay, this is real. We're here. I'm here. And that was kind of my recognition. As I parlayed all of those skills and experiences into corporate America, and I've kind of butted my heads with some employers over the year and have been fired for what Jaime spoke to of us just doing what we were raised to do. And that's be excellent and be perfect as you can. And not every employee, every employer desires that of their employees. So the good, the bad, sometimes that would trip us up in corporate America. For the most part, though, I believe leading by example has benefited me in my professional career. And I'll take the knocks for doing too much sometimes or trying to outdo. But, I've been fortunate beyond Coach Thompson. I've had the pleasure of serving three great Black men other than my father. But Earl Graves, former founder and chairman of Black Enterprise Magazine, as his public relations manager, and then Anthony Williams as his personal assistant, former mayor in DC. And with Coach Thompson as the third part of that triangle, the skills and lessons learned from those 3 pillars of our community have just been tremendous for me personally and professionally.
Let me just interject for a second because all hell broke loose over here.
Yeah, sure.
And I want to, this is why I have such high regard for each of you on this phone in the position itself. You just took over. it's almost like I wasn't even here. Like you didn't miss a beat. And I'm not saying if I would have had all players on this episode or on this call right now, the same thing wouldn't have happened, but it wouldn't have happened as smoothly as what I just saw. And this is a testament to, again, everything I think you individuals stand for, that position stands for. You make the show happen. You're there before us and you're there after us. So obviously this wasn't smooth, but I just want to thank each of you for not missing the beat and keeping the ball rolling. But that epitomizes why I salute and celebrate you. So again, if anyone's thinking like, oh, it's just a manager's show, you don't know what the fuck you're missing or talking about. Our program embodies all of this, and you guys are true pillars of that. I can't thank you enough. We're not finished. I got Shorty under control. He has some questions as well. He'd like to know what was the most difficult task that you were ever asked to do while you were at Georgetown, where you had to say, well, I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm all in. Or you just said, well, this is something I might not agree with, but this is this man's show and I have to go through with it. And I'll give you my example. Players don't really need to be named. Coach stepped to me and asked me a question about some doings up on the hilltop. He asked me specific players. He was testing me. I felt he was testing me. But I also, to your earlier point, Kenny, I was raised a certain way. I have a code, and my code has always been, you just can't, unless it's life or death, my first move would be to go tell the individual that's being asked about. So he put me on the spot, and what's going through your mind is, if I don't tell him what he wants to hear, I'm out of here. And I'm not Reggie. I'm not, I'm a role player. So I felt that at the time that was challenging, but my response was non-committal. But what I did after that, I think he would have been more is what he wanted. I wouldn't talk to those two individuals myself, one-on-one, and let them know, yo, you got to do a better job of what you're doing because it's not translating well. I want to ask each of you, and names are not necessary, but were you ever in that moment where, shit, I don't know how this is going to play out?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So this is senior year, 88. Reggie had graduated, program was down. As Jaime said up front, we were 20-10. Coming off of what, Jaime, 29-5?
29-5, yep.
So program's dipping a little bit. We're missing Pat, we're missing Reggie now, and everyone in the middle. And we have a recruiting weekend coming up. Alonzo Mourning. He had been at College Park with University of Maryland the week before. And Coach Eschrick told me that I would be Alonzo's host for the weekend. And they told me that they want him. And knowing that I was the networking social butterfly I was, they put him in my hands for the weekend.
Do you have a problem with beer?
What is it? So Coach Escher gave me the NCAA limit, which I believe was $30 to entertain.
That man was really 60 every place else, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I got you. That's probably the case, but he gave me 30. I remember it. To entertain Alonzo, we went out to College Park. I'm a Kappa. There was a step show out there, a Greek step show in Cole Fieldhouse. Now, I was getting him around my Kappa boys and the after parties and what have you. Little did I know they still had
Georgetown, and you took him to Maryland.
Well, this is just my thinking. I was thinking one way, but to your point, when we walked into Cole Fieldhouse, Markham, they still had the banner up. UMD awaits a new morning.
Wow.
So obviously I had to make up for it after the step show, which we did. And then the next night, I remember we did the Georgetown, M Street, Wisconsin scene. The movie theater was still at Georgetown Park. And I'll never forget Sunday night around midnight, Coach calling up into the Village A. And Coach said 3 things. We got him. Well, 2 things. We got him. 3 things. And that was by far the most pressure in 3 years on that program. Aside from all the Olympic stuff we did, there was more pressure in getting Alonzo to commit, and we got him.
So Kenny, you were part of the Olympic team in '88?
Yeah, I was very blessed to come along at the right time. Coach asked me to serve as the manager for the last collegiate Olympic team in 1988, Seoul,
Wow.
Korea. And Gino, I remember you being out in Colorado Springs. I think Markham was out there too, helping manage for all of our state.
I don't remember any of that. We don't have to talk about that. I don't remember.
Yeah, Gene was managing. Gene was holding them young guards accountable. Gene was setting. He was like the racehorse, you know,
Well,
the greyhound at the racetrack.
Yes.
Gene-
I literally, what's that guy they call in the races where they say I was the rabbit? They just threw it out there.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Exactly.
Gene, we did a U.S. Olympic thing before that when for the summer we played in Finland, Spain, all those places in Europe where you were on that team with the
Oslo. I remember we went to
that.
Oslo. Yeah. Dope time.
Funny that you bring up the Olympic team.
Yeah.
Me and Haim bumped into BJ Armstrong after one of these games. We saw him somewhere, and we started talking
Staples
about
Center. Yeah.
we started talking about that, and BJ was like, I asked him like if he remembered something happened in practice. BJ shot a jump shot, and it was an air ball. And coach blew the whistle, completely stopped practice. He said, "Son, were you trying to make that shot?" And BJ was like, yeah. He's like, "Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to see because that looked like some bullshit to me." And I was shocked that he remembered. He was like, "Dude, like, not only do I remember it, I tell people all the time. You know, you got to remember BJ Armstrong played with the Bulls doing a three-peat with Michael Jordan." He said, "I tell people all the time that was the craziest experience I ever had in my life because he was so like the mind games he put on the guys were so challenging. They just didn't know where it was coming from, and didn't know what to do sometimes. And I can remember very clearly, so like a lot of times at the end of practice, a player will be called up to shoot a free throw to determine whether practice is going to be over or we're going to do some more up and downs or whatever. And I would say probably 75% of the time, the players picked Charles Smith to shoot that free throw because Smitty knew the deal and he dealt with, I mean, back in that time, I mean, I think when Bobby Knight had Steve Alford on the team, I feel like the coaches, because they were college coaches, it was almost guaranteed that they would bring one of their players on the team. And Smitty was that guy for us. Not be very clear, not that he was not deserving. People often talk about the way Smitty came to Georgetown and how he was supposed to be just a practice player, defensive player. Let's be real clear. Charles Smith was the Big East Player of the Year in 1989. So whatever it was intended for him to do when he came there, he had different plans and made it happen. But that team had high regard for Smitty and the way he handled Big John.
Mr. Thompson, favorite player, coach or player, and why, and what experience is behind that while you were there?
Can you all hear me? Do I sound better?
No, you still
Yeah.
doing your
Sound
Dikembe.
horrible.
It's all right.
Yeah,
We're
but you
used
sound
to it.
good.
You
I
sound,
mean, if you're gonna sound like anybody, you might as well sound like Dikembe.
I mean, not even.
I even
Woo!
switched my mic out. I don't know what's going
Send
on.
this back in for repair.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to say single out anybody as my as
two,
my
two or three. I can tell you, they're not listening.
You're safe.
right.
You're safe here.
They are. People always listen. They hear it when you say something they don't like. They don't hear it when you say it. That's just
Bad news travels fast, baby.
man. That would take some serious thought. I think the time when we were there was an extraordinary time, and no one person stood out because we were pretty immediately in the aftermath of the championship year. And everybody was trying to prove themselves. The program was practically doing some rebuilding-ish. Even though the first year I was there, we won the Big East tournament with Reggie being the only senior. And that was called a miracle, Reggie and the Miracles. It was impressive watching Reggie play that season. And we had a game in Providence. I don't know if Kenny remembers this, but what Coach did. So when we were on the road, I kept the official scorers book. I sat at the scorers table. I didn't sit on the bench. Jaime and Kenny were still on both ends of the bench. And this had never happened before. But it was Reggie's greatest game that season. I think I even remember his stats. He had like 32 points and 18 rebounds. Never happened before. Coach would come by the table and ask me the stats. How many points does he have, Mark? How many rebounds is he at right now? It was as if he was looking for a certain number. And the last time he came back as a coach, he has 18. And then he let Reggie rest the rest of the game. It was maybe under 2 minutes left anyway. But he had never come to, we always thought he may not have even noticed who was doing what. I mean, we all could have been somewhat interchangeable in our roles. I would have thought if Ken had said, well, Mark, I'm going to keep the book. You sit at the head of the thing. I didn't think he would even notice, let alone come to the scorers table to ask a question. And he did that. And I was like, okay, he's really monitoring the situation. And Reggie showed out. It was also memorable because he and Rick Pitino almost got into a fist fight in that game. But these guys right now are they've always been my favorites because we were all a part of the team too. And, I just want to say Kenny was like a big brother to me because I didn't know what I was doing or what was going on. Unlike Kenny and Markham, I was not there. I never took the court when necessary as a manager. I don't know if Jaime remembers this. Jaime and I were playing one-on-one in the gym one day, Gene, and Coach cursed us out.
I was going to say, I already knew you got cursed out. I already knew that.
Y'all doing? It was just horrible. Like, it was the worst. And then he said, he made us stop. He said, you all need to stop because somebody in here is going to get hurt. Like, people walking by. He was afraid people walking by were going to get hurt from us.
Those are great games. We had the greatest one-on-one games. They're so much fun.
Yeah, we did. And I think we still figured out a way to sneak around and do it anyway.
We did.
James, you busted that ass, did you, James? You busted his ass.
I don't remember. They were just really competitive. They were great fun times.
Jaime's height. Jaime used, I'm not going to lie, Jaime used to dunk on me. He would go up.
There's video, right?
Yeah, there's video. We didn't have cell phones yet back then, but he would tomahawk something terrible. But Kenny was our leader. He was like a big brother, and just a consummate professional. Sometimes Kenny was a little too serious than I wanted him to be because I like to have fun. I would try to loosen Kenny up, but Kenny was serious. Receipts. I mean,
Very much so.
That's a
Very
T-shirt.
much so.
Receipts.
what Kenny just said,
Very much.
I don't know if people understand this. Miss Finland was as large as Coach Thompson in terms of presence. And anybody who went to Catholic school on it, she was that mother superior. She wasn't a nun anymore, but she still carried that presence, mother superior. But her to give Kenny her money out of her purse, you know, that was a whole nother, you know, that was like the Pope giving you his money. So that was no small thing. And that was a lot of pressure. And Kenny handled it. And last thing I'll say, as the years went by, and I think all of us in our different ways had different relationships with Coach, but we would talk. And he would talk about, you know, some of the different people that worked for him and what they meant to him. And I want you guys to know, he said to me how much each of you meant to him, and how professional and what a professional way you carried out your jobs, you know. And I think we represented an era, again, right after that championship in '84. You know, we were still caught up in the rapture, if you will, and we wanted to serve, and we wanted to be successful at Georgetown, and wanted that program to be successful as well while we were there.
Yeah.
When you talk about favorite players, that team, our Reggie and the Miracles team, I mean, Reggie was, of course, my favorite, without a doubt. The way he led, I mean, the way he played, he wanted to win. But we had, like, when Jaren Jackson and Bobby Winston and Charles Smith were on the court at the same time, those three, they were amazing. The synergy between them, how they looked out for each other. And then you throw in Dwayne Bryant and Mark Tillman were awesome. So we just had, and then Anthony Allen was, you know, if you watch the Southeast Regional Final against Providence when we lost, Anthony Allen's in the paint, just like defending, blocking shots, playing so big. I mean, so we just had so many Ben Gilly had an amazing game against Syracuse one year where he had like 10 points in the first half.
President.
So, we just had and Ronnie, you know, we had that three-headed, you know, big man, Ben, Ronnie, Big J, and the Big East tournament just destroyed Ronnie Cycli. So we had so much.
Perry McDonald destroyed Ronnie Cycli.
Oh, I forgot
sure.
about. Oh yeah, Perry McDonald, 6'4", lefty in the paint, was just, you know, amazing. So we had that year was just so special. And we woke up. We had 4 guys on our team from New Orleans, and the Final Four was going to be New Orleans. I woke up just knowing that we were going to win that game, go to New Orleans, and we just destroyed Providence 2 weeks before in the Big East tournament, like by 23 points. And then they switched their whole game plan up on us. And Reggie, I remember Coach yelling at this ref one time, and like 2 seconds later, the ref called Reggie's third foul with like 18 minutes left in the first half. And we were just, it was going to be a rough day for us. But, you know, I love Reggie's my guy. Reggie, I loved watching Reggie that year. Like whoever Mark said, that year was special watching Reggie play.
Yeah.
So why that foul was called?
Why was that foul called? Because Coach just yelled at that ref. Yeah.
This game, right? We were 1 game from New Orleans.
4 guys.
You played Providence 4 times that year, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
this
that was
Providence
the
3 times that year.
But we lost to them the 4th time. We played them regular season, home and away, Big East champ
So
tournament.
you played 4 times that year.
Yeah, and then 4th was when
we were
we lost.
2 and
They
2.
beat us.
Well, it's
beat us
interesting that you guys are sharing Reggie, because I played with Reggie as a freshman.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's seeing him as a freshman and seeing him as a senior. I won't say it's everything that I expected, but he put everybody on his back.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was just it was incredible to see, because you just think how he finished out his freshman year and how he was trying to finish out his senior year. Same way.
I took my daughter 2 years ago to a game, and Reggie was like in one of the bars out right by the whatever it's called now, Capitol Center, whatever it is. And the one picture I had to have was Reggie and my daughter, for sure. It's like my favorite on Facebook. I don't have Snap or any of that other stuff, but for Facebook, it got the job done with me and my daughter and Reggie.
Shout out to Sophia. Shout out.
Sure.
So Reggie, what happened in that game, that last one, we were in the Elite 8. if you all remember, we were so assured because we'd beaten Providence 3 times before. We were so assured of victory. The coach had been walking around campus in the locker room singing Fats Domino, walk into New Orleans. I mean, because that's where the Final Four was. I'm at the scorer's table before the tip. The refs come out. Kenny gonna laugh when he hit his name. He'll remember it. One of the refs is Booker T. White. And Booker was always hard on us.
Yeah.
One of the reasons was he called the national championship game, and being a black referee, he was back out trying to prove he wasn't going to be too easy on Georgetown.
Right.
Coach walks
Like
out.
like anybody was being easy.
Yeah.
Right. But you know how some of us do. And Coach used to say he supported black referees, Markham, but just not reffing Georgetown games because they always had to prove they weren't showing him favoritism.
Yeah.
I don't know if you all were within earshot, but I told the story before. I'm sitting at the scores table. Booker's like standing right in front of me. Coach walks out, and right away, as soon as he walks out on the court, not even tip yet, says, Booker, I can't help what I am. Don't punish me for looking like you. And when he said that, I knew we weren't going to New Orleans. I just, I didn't, and I was maturing y'all to the place where, you mature to a place in life. You're talking about when you come into your own gene, you mature to a place in your life when you no longer kid yourself. So when he said that, I said, oh no. And sure enough, Booker was all on us in that game.
Let me just jump in on the Reggie fan club real quick. Because 87, we had the opportunity to go out once again to the U.S. Olympic Training Center for the Pan American Games trials. So there firsthand, you had 120 of the best men's college basketball players in the country from every team out there trying out for the 15 spots on the Pan Am team in 87, where I put Reggie as a player in his senior year. For me, in my money, Reggie was the most dominant single player in college basketball in 1987, not only for Georgetown, but when I compared him to others trying out for the Pan Am team, we had the first-hand seat for that because we were blowing the whistle and doing the locker room and doing what managers do for that crew too. But Reggie was just a beast, could do it all. Offensively, defensively, rebound, mental toughness beyond anyone. He just had it all.
See, so I knew this was going to happen because you're a humble bunch. You're not going to share when it comes to celebrating yourself. And this, I'm going to be more direct. I'm going to be more direct with this question.
Oh, can I get my favorite player in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
my bad.
I'm shocked. Well, I'm not shocked, but I thought my answer would have shocked you guys because I was going to stay. If I had to go with my teams, it would be Charles Smith and Bobby Winston. Those guys, Bobby, Smitty and Bobby, it's really just looked out for me. I remember my brother came, they had an eighth grade class trip. And he came to DC. Bobby borrowed somebody's car and drove me so I could see my brother way out in Maryland somewhere. Never forget that. I was at Smitty's house all the time. His mom would invite me over for wings, sports event or something. It was like she was my mom away from home. I just talked to her last week. The relationship continues to this day. But outside of my guys, my favorite player was absolutely Reggie Williams, but for a different reason than everybody's saying. I was looking at it from the perspective of a manager. Earlier, we talked about how we were there an hour before practice, an hour after. Reggie Williams was an absolute 180 from Alonzo Mourning. Alonzo Mourning would close the locker room with me. He would stand in the mirror, putting lotion on, rubbing his, I don't know what, man, just trying to look pretty. I would have to wait.
Sexy.
I would have to wait on Alonzo to finish up in the locker room after practice. Reggie Williams,
First one out.
gone.
2 minutes.
Gone.
30 seconds. He'd take
30
that
sec-
shower.
yeah,
He
30
ain't messing around. Reggie was gone. I was like, man, if I could have 15 Reggie Williams, I'd be in. Love Reggie Williams because he was getting out of that gym.
Right.
Yeah.
So the reason why I asked that question, just to shed on you how I'm thinking, because for me, it's usually not the person that somebody would think, right? So it's someone who basically guided you in a way that you didn't know about till later. So for me, it was someone I didn't even play with. It was John Doran, and to have John Doran take me under his wing when I'm just coming to Georgetown. So I'm talking Urban Coalition. Bebe says to me, stay with, because we played on 1789 together. This is when the Urbo was the jam.
Yep.
Do what I do and don't ask me why. Literally, this is on the court, and I'm going to show you what you need to do to be successful at Georgetown. And on top of that, they say you can't score. You're going to score 20 points in this game, and then I'm going to show you how to do it. Like, man, I ain't never scored 20 points in my life. But this was him giving me that confidence, letting me know that I can I can be successful on the next level. He showed me what it meant to be a Georgetown guy, Georgetown man. Then you throw Lonnie into it, which is what all of you epitomize with all the bench. The Georgetown bench used to be notorious for managers to people who weren't even getting in the game, because we let you know you got to come through all 15 of us. And that's why, again, when I look at Georgetown games, I look at the bench. I see what the guys doing on the bench. And if you are a walk-on, or if you're a manager and you're not up, and you're not, I'm thinking, okay, the climate has changed, the energy has changed.
Yeah.
That's why, we got somebody there now in Pat We Trust that I think understands all that.
I still watch
Yes,
games
you
like that.
mentioned
My
that.
wife wants me to calm down so my blood pressure doesn't go up. So yeah, I still am crazy yelling 55. No, he's 40 hard. She's like, "What are you yelling 40 hard for?" I'm like, well. So anyhow, yeah, I still root on the Hoyas like crazy when I watch them every time, and no easy baskets and all that type of stuff. So yeah, it's great.
All right, so we're at an hour and a half now. I can talk to you guys all day. I'm respectful of your time, so I'm going to try to wind it down a little bit. My little fella here wanted me to ask you guys, how do we take everything that we're talking about, that we know embodies our program, and communicate that narrative to those people that are there now, to the alumni? Because I'm only saying this because I see how the university communicates. I see how the athletic department communicates, and I applaud all that. But I need this narrative. I need the players' narrative. I need the manager's narrative. I need people that put in blocks, not to talk about the past, but to make the future and the present better. How do we fill in those gaps? And take as long as you want. I think we should let Mark Thompson go first, because he's the most long-winded, because he gets paid for that. But I definitely want to hear what you guys think, because I think you guys, again, as managers, your players, your administrators, your drivers, your banks, you're all of the above. So how can we communicate this narrative, which is our history? And only we can tell those stories, to be honest with you. And I'm being sincere. But yeah, I'd like to hear your point of views on that.
Long-winded.
My bad.
You just got a lot to impart.
Yeah, lots of knowledge.
With his wisdom.
So, no, real quick. I think it's happening. I think you know, what Patrick has done in terms of even having gatherings for some of the current players, by literally having a branch in his office to deal with former players and managers. Someone, Patrick Jr. being specifically in that role, that has never happened before. So that opens an opportunity for not only all of us to come together, but for us to commune and talk to some of the players. We've been able to do that. And I have every reason to think that that will continue, you know, and I do know that there are further conversations about those of us who are formerly a part of that legacy program becoming more involved in the university and in supporting each other and supporting other players. So I think we're on our way to that. But the best way to continue that and ensure it is to support Patrick, support everything he's doing in every way possible. We know this game can be fickle. And let's be clear, you know, the elephant in the room, that even Coach Thompson could not prevent his own son from being fired. So that's the game. I think the mistake Georgetown makes, and I think this is where we offer course correction, people like us, is that some people who are new to Georgetown, new to the Georgetown administration, and I'm not talking about Jack, you know, but they even, you know, as new generations come in, they don't have the institutional memory we have. And so people see Georgetown and they put it alongside North Carolina and Kentucky and UCLA and those great legacy programs. And that's appropriate. But Georgetown always has been and always will be, in terms of the campus, in terms of the basketball program, much smaller and disproportionate to the size of its name. Very close-knit, very familial. And I think we are here with Patrick and supporting Patrick to make sure it remains that way.
Well said.
I've been very,
Well said.
go someone else.
No, you go ahead.
I've been very lucky. Patrick Ewing has really made me feel welcome every time back on campus. Go up to his office, chat with him for a little bit. But to your question, Gene, specifically for the current players, I think this Patrick Ewing Jr. position is amazing. You need to have an outreach to the players in the basketball office. But I think it's a sort of a three-pronged step in terms of somebody like student affairs, like there used to be Sam Harvey, somebody that these players can call tomorrow, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, that will provide them with, you have a base here at Georgetown in helping you get it further your career. And with a third prong is somebody in alumni affairs in terms of alumni webinars, reaching out to, like, there's so many amazing alumni out here. So really, like, either the student affairs person, the alumni person, having a direct line that can connect them to alumni for informational interviews, for guidance, whatever. If you want a job in finance, you want a job in writing in Hollywood, or whatever it is, there's a Georgetown alum in foreign service, whatever it might be, and having a direct line from student affairs and the alumni office that a men's basketball graduate or manager can call up and feel like family, feel like they're not being a burden, but like, this is a welcome, you're welcome to do this. We honor you to do this. You know, have that really feel like we're going to help you. You know, you're asking for it, we're here for you. That type of mentality. And Patrick Jr. is doing that from the basketball office, but I think needs to be a more conversation with somebody in the student affairs department. And I don't know if it's student affairs, but somebody associated with the university and also with the alumni office.
Before you other two speak, and I was trying not to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, because it's the Hoya locker room. We're in the locker room, and this might not get out. I listen to alumni affairs. I listen to GMA. I listen to 1789. I listen to these podcasts. I listen to what we're communicating because I'm a part of it. I'm a part of Georgetown. I want to celebrate everything about it. I'm waiting for Georgetown Entertainment Media Alliance Association, whatever it is, to have a Mark Thompson segment. I don't understand why that hasn't happened. Because again, we're talking about Georgetown Entertainment Media Alliance. Mark Thompson does not want to hear me say this. But that to me, what you just talked about, James, that makes sense, right? That's celebrating everything. And in terms of continuing to define our narrative from a Georgetown basketball perspective, I don't know anyone better. So those type of opportunities exist, and we need to seize them. We need to seize upon them. But at the end of the day, I know the onus is on us to do things as well. And that's what Hoya Locker Room is. That's what Dog Talk is, because we have the resources, we have the tools, and that's why I celebrate each and every one of you for showing up to because this is what it's going to take. And it's not like we don't have those stories, but I just wanted to piggyback off of that. My bad for interrupting.
Something as simple as resume, working on your resume, working on interviewing techniques. So for sure.
Yeah. Ralph Dalton talked about it in the last episode. Mentorship.
Mentorship.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Next up.
Go ahead, Kenny.
So I see it, I guess, a combination of what Jaime and Mark spoke to. Gene touched on it. Gene, we talk about it on the Hoop Club board about ways to engage and what we should be doing. Mark and I have talked at length about what we both feel should be happening. I think, though, Jaime, your point of engaging the university resources, I see that as a phase 2. Where I see phase 1 where we're lacking is how we connect one to the other. Players, managers, coaches, former coaches. And, you know, we murmur about the disappointments individuals have in connecting with our network. But I think before we move to what you're asking for, Gene, we have to have an honest conversation with ourselves about if, for example, our base is spread out over 10 regions around this country. That's a very manageable unit there. There's some cats on the Northwest, some cats in the Texas area, about 10 regions. We all are in about 10 regions. So how well do we look out for each other in those regions or inter-region? Are we returning each other's calls when someone's reaching out for a hand? How dare we expect the university to give up resources when they observe and they watch and they see and they hear and they listen and they talk? We're not even doing it to a high degree ourselves. You know, take a page out of UNC Chapel Hill. You know, J.R. Reed, I was in his wedding. J.R. and I got very tight over the whole Olympic experience. That's a tight network of alums, of coaches, managers, and ball players, Chapel Hill. We can emulate that, but it starts with ourselves. We got to start doing a better job, in my humble opinion, of looking out for each other first and foremost. Return a call.
Very well said. Very well said. And if I could just add to that, in a very humble way, that's all Hoya Locker Room is. In a very humble way. But again, if you are talking about Georgetown basketball and none of us are involved in that conversation, and it doesn't have to be anyone, if you go through that program on any level, you have something to offer and share. And what you just talked about, that can be communicated. None of us have been taught, trained, came under the tutelage of being a victim. We control our own destiny. So I'm not for 1 second suggesting we deserve a handout.
No.
We own this story, right? We're a part of this story. And again, the fact that Georgetown was thought of as an HBCU by those who never stepped foot on that, it's a reason for that. So who better to communicate that than those who actually went through it? And again, I see resources being utilized. We all do.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm just saying this narrative that we're dropping right now, dropping like it's hot, nobody else on the hilltop is talking like this.
Right.
And this is 2020. And those conversations should be had. That's just where I'm at.
Yep.
And again, I'm more of a DIY guy. So I mean, again, we're in 2020 now. So that shit about we have to be in the same city or the same country even. This is what we're doing right now. We can all be anywhere. We can connect.
Yep.
So I'm with you. It always starts with self. It always starts with us. And we're too dope a group, you know, because if you ask the average person, you know, Georgetown defines family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our legacy's intact. So yeah, well said. Well said.
Yep.
Markham?
I absolutely agree with what Kenny said. And I think you said a few moments ago, like the onus is on us. And I'd always thought that for a long time, that we needed to be organized in a sense to be able to help each other. So if I want to work on Wall Street, I can call up a Ron Blaylock or a Ralph Dalton or Raheem Bell and say, hey, you know, could I get your advice? Just a phone call. Maybe there's a possibility of an internship or mentorship, and for any field, because we're spread across various fields. And quite honestly, I've tried to do that in the past. You're asking about how we're doing in COVID. I think one of the blessings of this pandemic is that people began to see the value in something like a Zoom. And so I was able to finally get people to connect, and we started organizing as alumni. And there are lots of things going on with that. And if there are any players, managers, former coaches who are looking or hear about this, please shoot me an email with your contact information at markhamwho@gmail.com. MARKHUMWHO.
Don't leave out that H. Don't leave. He will hunt you down.
Yeah.
He actually has a story about that H, but I don't think he'll tell it.
Yeah, next time. But I think it's important that we're organized, and also that we take advantage of participating and engaging with efforts that the university already has going on. I'm a board emeritus board member now of the Georgetown University African American Advisory Board that Father O'Donovan started before he left. I did alumni interviews through the AAP program, and there are lots of opportunities to get engaged. Unfortunately, I think that collegiate sports is so intense. Many people don't realize how much time it takes and what it requires of a person unless they've experienced it. So when you're going through that experience, you're not really aware of the resources, the opportunities that are available. And if someone doesn't point that out to you, you won't know about it, and you might leave an institution and not be in the best position possible. One of the things that P. John used to always say that I really appreciate, and I've had friends who've had children who were high-level Division I athletes, and I always tell them, use basketball. Don't let basketball use you. And that's straight from Big John. And you know, everybody knows about the deflated basketball, but I think it's very important for people to take advantage of the opportunities and engage themselves. Leave it at that.
No, good points, Mark. Just let me add two pieces to that on the engagement level. The Black Alumni Summit, which we started about
Absolutely.
6 years ago, is another terrific opportunity. It's a biannual event, and now it draws on all schools, all years. But that's a wonderful place to engage with our fellow alumni classmates on a 2-3 day setting on campus, usually in October. The other board that Markham spoke of with Father Donovan, Ralph and Ron Blaylock and I were actually founding members, Markham, of that board. So we were there at the beginning, launching that when it had at the time the direct ear of the president's office. But still, those type of situations where we could represent ourselves on campus as something other than Hoya men's basketball, representing Hoya's men's basketball, but now getting involved with policy and, you know, workshops and seminars and, you know, things on the business front. This is where we can inject ourselves and reestablish and further establish.
One other thing I would add, there's also a group on Facebook called Soul Hoya that
Keith,
people can engage with. Look that up.
I do want to give a shout out. There are some groups on campus now, and I don't want to quote. I don't want to say it wrong. I think it's Black. It's a Black committee. They actually had a really dope video on YouTube about what's going on with the social unrest. So there are some new chapters on campus, and I think they're doing a fantastic job. I do my best to tag them on anything Hoya Locker Room, because, you know, we have to know that there are more resources on campus now than when we were there. And, you know, my goal is to engage the youth, like the players that are there now, the current players, and just to let them know where the program came from so they can take it to the next level. I mean, this is not about, I don't need a t-shirt. I don't need a jersey. I love the Hilltop. Blood, sweat, and tears. And now it's about giving back. And this is the best way I know how. Sure, easier way is to go in your pocket, you know, but I'm going to put in some sweat equity. And that to me is what it's all about. And I just want to thank you guys for giving me your time, giving me your energy. We might have to do this again. But I'm definitely gonna make sure I don't have my shorty with me, because he's throwing off my train of thought right now. I thought he would be adding to the equation. But each of you, Hoya, salute big time. If you have any parting words or any way you want to send us off, I do want to give a shout out. Mike Sweetney, happy birthday. Dean Berry, happy birthday. Young Victor Murison, happy birthday. And, you know, always big coach. You know, we do this for you, man.
That's it.
That's it.
All right.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Hoya out.
Good
Hoya
seeing
out.
you, KV.
40 hard, fellas.
That's right.
Dikembe, Cookie Monster, Mark Thompson, appreciate you, bro.
Yo,
All right, fellas.
good to see everybody.
All
I'll
right.
send you something from the hospital.